Everyone can use AI, you just need a little support and guidance, and that's what I'm here to give you. Welcome to the Early Education in the Age of AI podcast. I'm your host, Jody Clark from the Empowered Educator Online, and I'm passionate about giving early childhood professionals just like you the smart AI strategies you need to thrive in what is an increasingly digital world. Every week, I share different ways in which AI can support and empower the work of early education professionals in their planning, environment setup, documentation, leadership, professional development, assessment, activities, and so much more. Thanks for joining me to listen to the podcast. I know how busy you are, so I really appreciate your time. Let's get into this week's episode. So in today's episode, we'll be exploring how AI chatbots can become your personal educational assistants to support the core area of intentional teaching. I'll share some practical examples of some prompts and questions that you can ask an AI chat assistant to get specific recommendations, activity ideas, and reflection insights whenever you need them. This will ensure you get the responses that you need. So we'll start by reviewing core principles of an intentional teaching pedagogy approach, and then we'll explore some common challenges that educators face with finding time, balancing structured versus child-led playful learning approaches, and also reflecting effectively to support the extension of learning. I'll tell you how chatting with an AI assistant or chatbot can become your solution to overcoming all of those roadblocks. So let's dive into the possibilities and how we can start experimenting ethically and confidently, because AI chatbots really do have so much potential to support and empower us in our work as educators when we know how to use them effectively and meaningfully. And that's why you're listening to this podcast. So if you're ready to reflect and grow as an AI empowered educator, let's do this. So let's consider for a moment what it might mean to your time management and stress levels if you had an educational assistant always by your side. This person could support you whenever you needed it in the way of a mentor or an early childhood coach to help you achieve a better balance between planning those educator-led intentional teaching activities for your weekly program, but also being able to respond spontaneously in the moment to extend children's knowledge and understanding during play or even just other day-to-day moments. I'm going to tell you exactly how you can do that and achieve that in this week's episode. So keep listening for all the step-by-step guidance you'll need to begin doing this on your own. I think you'll be surprised at how easy it is once you have a few simple strategies to follow. But before we explore how AI can assist with our intentional teaching moments, let's quickly review what intentional teaching actually means in early education. It's important that you understand exactly what this approach is and why we use it as part of our day-to-day practice, so then you'll know exactly what information you want to get back from an AI assistant that will be the most helpful to your particular early education role, and of course the age groups and the personalities and interests of the children that you currently work with. So intentional teaching, as outlined in the Australian Early Years Learning Framework, which we call the EYLF, and National Quality Standard, the NQS, is an approach where educators actively plan and act with specific learning goals in mind for children. It involves creating meaningful and challenging experiences that promote those higher level thinking skills. So even if you're an educator listening to this outside of Australia, it doesn't matter that you're not following our framework. Intentional teaching is pretty much seen in some form or fashion throughout all frameworks and standards, no matter where you are working in early education around the world. What we need to understand is that intentional teaching is not just about planning educator-led learning experiences, but it's also about being flexible and adaptable so it can emerge spontaneously, and learning experiences can also be child-initiated, and that's still a form of intentional teaching. Educators need to be able to react and purposely build upon a child's curiosity in a way that promotes those extra skills, and also promotes those interests that they might be showing you as well. For example, an educator might notice a child's interest in something simple like leaves during a nature walk. You could then intentionally guide the child to observe the different shapes and colours and textures of the leaves, asking some open-ended questions to stimulate the child's thinking and understanding of nature. So this approach is not strictly teacher-led, and it's probably something that you're doing every day in your day-to-day work and engagements and interactions with the children, of course. But you might not have really made the connection that it is actually a form of intentional teaching, because often we've been told that just means that it has to be really teacher focused and it's something that you've planned way ahead of time, and so that there's no room for spontaneity, and that's just not true at all. So you can definitely take on that role within the child's self-chosen play or whatever they're doing at the time by being intentional with the language that they use and the questions that you're going to ask during that play or that experience or wherever you are, even if it's just a walk. Intentional teaching strategies can include asking those open-ended questions, like I mentioned before, explaining, modeling, speculating, inquiring, and demonstrating to extend children's knowledge. There's lots of ways that we can do it without having it actually written down on our weekly program. It's about being deliberate in what we're providing, what we're modeling, and what we do across the whole day, not just during those specific planned teaching moments. So to put it more simply, and to break it right down, intentional teaching in early education, as the way we use it in our early education settings and environments, is about being deliberate and purposeful, but also thoughtful in the decisions and actions that we use to support children's ongoing learning and development, which in turn supports and makes easier our forward planning and our future experiences and activities and extension ideas that we want to come up with. But we certainly don't need to overthink this process, although I do know that it's a source of uncertainty and stress for many educators, having coached many educators through this topic. And there's a lot of confusion around what intentional teaching actually is. So think about if this is something that you struggle with, perhaps start with some of these core basic strategies to help build up your confidence in this area a bit. We already observe children, so continue to regularly observe children during their play and begin to look for more, air quotes here, teachable moments. It's not the best phrase, but I know you'll connect with that, to build on emerging skills and interests right in the moment, a bit like in-moment reflection. You're bringing in those skills as well. Ask open-ended questions when they're curious about something to encourage problem solving and critical thinking. What you're aiming to do there is to expand on children's thinking and understanding beyond just those simple yes/no answers. And we can do that across all of the age groups. You can build on challenges or scaffold challenges by giving just enough support for children to experience that feeling of success and building their confidence. And then you can start gradually removing some of those supports as their abilities and confidence grow, so that you're always challenging them to move on to that next step. And don't underestimate the power of your learning environments, both indoors and outdoors. Make sure you're setting them up in an engaging way. And that doesn't mean spending lots of money on expensive materials or needing to spend hours every morning setting up your play spaces. Just make sure you're including lots of multi-sensory materials, open-ended loose parts materials that children can start investigating on their own, and those sorts of activities that tie into your learning outcome goals as well. So think about that before you're setting up each week. What is it that you want to achieve this week as a group, as a whole? Our goal as an educator here really is just to find the right balance between teacher-facilitated learning and child-led play and exploration. So you remain responsive in the moment, but you've also got clear learning goals and plans that you want to use to promote that growth and extend that early learning. What you're doing is incorporating a mix of both approaches intentionally, so we can have that balance of both. Some of the challenges, though, as with any teaching approach, intentionality comes with its challenges too. And often we can face issues like some of the following. Trying to find enough time in the day for both these planned activities and to take advantage of those spontaneous moments. And it can be tricky to balance that structure with flexibility, I know. Getting to know each child well enough so you can understand their unique interests and capabilities. There's only so much observations, observing that you can get done in a week, of course. But this is why we want to always be building on our interactions and our conversations with the children as well. It doesn't always have to be something formal. It's still going to inform your forward planning and your intentional teaching moments because you know the child well. Another challenge is being unsure about how to use or how we're meant to use intentional teaching in a way that aligns with our specific frameworks, our standards, our principles, no matter where we are in the world. Also finding that right balance between the teacher-led or guided and child-led activities can be really tricky, and often educators are made to feel guilty in some way if they have too many teacher-guided experiences, but then also on the flip side, as has been my experience anyway, if it's too free-flowing with too many child-led activities, there can also be criticism as well. So it can be really hard to walk that line and find that right balance that we're meant to be walking. And this can lead to us feeling uncertain too if those strategies and extension activities that we're writing down every week and putting on our plan and hopefully being able to at least carry out one of those in the following week for each child, you might reflect on what worked and what to improve. But then it's so easy to forget some of those insights, some of those reflections and things that you wanted to focus on in the next week or the next planning cycle due to all the demands of your busy day and things just get hectic. And trying to remember all the strategies that you want to try while also responding in the moment. It is easy to get distracted from goals and the things that we put on our program, our planning that week that we had all good intentions of doing, but perhaps it's just been one of those weeks where you're struggling to even get one of the planned activities you had on your program done that week. The good news is that chatting with an AI chatbot assistant can help you as an educator to overcome some of these challenges when trying to use an intentional teaching approach. And that's what I want to give you, some really simple strategies and simple ideas that you can go away with and experiment on your own. An AI assistant, when prompted effectively, so when you know how to prompt it effectively, and I'm going to give you some prompts that you can go away and try on your own, can complete the following for you. And if you're unsure about what prompting an AI chatbot means, what I'm talking about there, make sure to listen to some of the previous episodes for a more detailed explanation where I go into what AI prompting is and how educators can use it. And I also give you lots of examples in each episode, so listen out for those as well. What the AI assistant can do for you in this area of supporting intentional teaching, making this a little bit easier, a little bit more meaningful, a little bit more useful, is providing quick activity ideas that are specific to your goals, especially if they're individual learning goals for for different children. And that way you're going to spend less time planning, less time writing, more time actually doing with the children and engaging with the children. It can help you analyze those child observations and documentation, which we've gone through also in a previous episode. I'll link to that in the show notes. notes to recommend more personalized learning experiences that align and support their individual needs, strengths, interests, and ideas. Of course, you need to give the AI assistant that information. It's not going to be able to read your mind and know what you know about a child, and that's why you always need to bring your knowledge of the child and your experience, of course, as an educator, what you know about early childhood theory into this conversation as well. It can give you reflection questions, prompts, and reminders to refer to throughout your hectic day to make the most of those moments. It can help you track progress and patterns over time if you're feeding it in the information and maybe asking it to summarize things for you. And it can then highlight some opportunities that you might have missed because you were so busy. It can suggest modifications to your learning environment, some things that you could add into your learning environment and activities based on each child. You can also, ChatGPT now has the ability, ChatGPT 4, if you use the paid subscription, now allows you to upload an image as well. And I've been testing this with uploading an image of an environment that I've set up, an indoor and an outdoor play space that I've set up. And then I give it some direction around what I'm trying to achieve with my learning outcomes that week, or for a specific child, what we want to focus on. And it can actually look at that image now and read what it is, and then give you suggestions based on your personal environment. So that is just something that is fantastic and we can see many uses. So these sort of things are coming out all the time, trying to keep on top of them all for you to let you know. It can listen when you're feeling overwhelmed and provide some encouraging words and professional coaching, and share with you some positive affirmations or model some positive self-talk when you need a bit of a quick confidence boost. And it can recommend strategies to try tomorrow or next week or next month based on today's observations and responses. So if you've taken some observation jottings, some notes, you can put them in with a prompt to the AI chatbot and say, this is what happened today with this child, or as the group as a whole. What's something I could use from this? How could I extend on this in tomorrow's activities? And it will also, of course, save you time on admin tasks like documentation and planning. AI chatbots are really good for that, and we discuss that a lot on this podcast. So you can focus on more meaningful, engaged interactions with the children, with your colleagues, with parents. So let's explore how using AI to support our daily intentional teaching throughout those things that we do every day, our everyday routines, across a typical busy day could look like in action. If we just take some of those examples that I gave you one step further, just to help us visualize. Remember that we aren't talking about scary robots here taking over your job. The AI assistant is just a chat window, a bit like you might have used on Messenger in Facebook. The difference is it's there to provide helpful recommendations through a collaborative conversation style. So you're just going to chat like you would with, say, a coach, a colleague, someone like that, and you're going to go back and forth until you get the answers that you need. So you could do something like during your planning time, you could ask your AI assistant for a list of quick activity ideas that are related to your current learning outcome goals, your curriculum standards, whatever they might be. You could pull one or two of those out that you really want to focus on. Perhaps it's a child's observed interest, or even some new materials that you have available, or some loose parts buckets that you've put together. And the AI assistant can respond with some really tailored suggestions pretty much instantly, saving you time designing and thinking of activities, especially extension activities, from scratch. And the recommendations you'll receive based on your observations and knowledge of the child or the group, or those previous assessments that you've done, because you've fed that information in as well. I'm going to show you how to do that shortly. Another example, while observing during just general playtime, free time, you may wonder, chat with the AI pull out your phone or your tablet while you're observing or something like that, just to help you brainstorm. If a child needs additional scaffolding or some things that you might be able to do in the moment, and it can analyze your provided notes. So I'm just talking about some quick dot points here, or you can speak into it and just give it some quick audio and see if you can get some creative ideas to help you build on that learning in the moment and propose some modifications to try, or perhaps some materials you could introduce for, say, if this was something that you were observing in the block play area, perhaps this is something that you want to work on while you're sitting there. It's no different to taking photos or sitting there jotting down your observation notes. It's not taking you away from the children. I'm talking about something that should take you only a couple of minutes, and you can get back to it later on because you've already fed it into your AI assistant. Perhaps think about when you're on a quick break in a busy, stressful day, when your program seems to be going out the window, that little 5-minute break you might get if you're lucky. Pull out your phone and tell your AI assistant you're feeling overwhelmed and why. What's just happened? What's been happening today? What's most frustrating? And it can quickly offer expertise as a mentor, as a coach, to build your confidence, support more positive self-talk, and also, most importantly, give you some solutions or suggestions or hacks to the issue or challenge that you are facing that day and help you get through that day feeling more positive. Perhaps at the end of the week, you could ask your AI assistant to act as your reflective practice partner. I know many educators and many educational leaders find this really challenging to fit in reflective practice, or to know where to start, or what sort of questions they're supposed to be asking, or even what to do with that information, so it's not just a waste of your time. And AI is really great at giving you a series of reflective questions and prompts that will help you to gain a fresh perspective about what did work, what didn't, and help you also to plan for those ongoing improvements, which we need to be showing in our quality improvement planning. So AI can really help you in this area as well. The core key here is approaching an AI chatbot as that interactive assistant and mentor, not just a search engine that's going to give you an immediately correct answer. You need to thoughtfully integrate those responses and recommendations and ideas and activities, etc., while you can incorporate that into your environment and program, but you can do that while you're staying hands-on in the learning process and also feeding in your expertise and knowledge as the educator. So if you're now feeling a little bit excited, I hope you are, about the possibilities for your own planning and practice in this area, try some of these tips to begin experimenting as a first step. Start by researching some chatbots designed specifically to support early childhood educators. Look for ones, if you can, that align to your particular curriculum and are transparent. This is really important about the training processes. How do they train their chatbot? What sort of information have they used? And how do they maintain your digital privacy? And are they ethical when you're using them? If you'd like to start your AI journey with AI assistants that already meet this criteria, so basically most of the hard work and training is already done for you, which I've done myself based on my own knowledge over the last 30 years in early childhood, but also up-to-date best practice information I've also trained all of my AI chatbots and mentors on. You can actually join our Empowered Educator Academy members who are already talking to their latest new AI mentors and assistants. We have EYLF, Dottie Documentation, and Lacey Leadership, and they all have their own areas of expertise. So it's just like having an on-call educational consultant in your back pocket, or a coach or a mentor, and they're using them to decrease their overwhelm and start enjoying their job again. So they're not bogged down in just writing and planning and overthinking and always constantly second guessing yourself about if what you're doing is right. You'll find step-by-step videos, huge library of AI chat prompts. So the prompts like I give you in these podcast episodes, And you can simply, but these ones you can simply copy and paste into the AI Assistant's chat window in the little modal there. And if you'd like to know more about how you can access those or what they can do for you, I've left a link for you in the show notes so you can have a look at the information page, or you can search Academy for Empowered Educators online and that should come up for you as well. However, if there's no money left in the kitty for professional development right now, that's no problem. You could also try using the free versions of the large language models. And two of the most popular right now are Claude and ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT 3.5 is their free version. I actually pay a monthly subscription to also access ChatGPT 4, which I think is really worth it. But you can still get good results with these free tools by taking the time to create a little more specific, a little more thoughtful and detailed AI prompts than you would use with a specialized, already trained educational AI tool like the Academy Assistants. But it's just all about experimenting. And you can definitely begin your journey with these free tools. You just need to sign up for an account with OpenAI for ChatGPT or Anthropic for Claude, which has just been made available in Australia now, so that's great. And they each, as you begin to work with AI tools, you'll start to realize that they each have their strengths and weaknesses, and some people prefer one tool over the other. That's why I like to put together my own AI assistants, because I can feed in the training that's more specific to early childhood education as well, and the things that we want to know. But you can certainly use some of the prompts I've been giving you in these free tools just to get yourself started. And if you're apprehensive when using those chatbots, start out with some simpler requests, like just simply asking for some activity ideas for a certain age group that's tied to your weekly learning, those outcome goals that you have on your plan this week, and see how the suggestions compare to what you would have created on your own or your specific early education knowledge of this topic. And if the chatbot gives a recommendation you disagree with, which it can often do, that's why you still need to bring along your expertise and knowledge to these conversations, provide feedback to improve its response. They have little feedback tools, and the more feedback we give, the better they will become for us, because they're training on that information. So you want to view this as an ongoing mentoring relationship. Also, don't forget to discuss your experience with families and involve them in setting expectations around AI use in your service to maintain trust and transparency. I've got a podcast episode coming up soon on that will help educational leaders and childcare centres and family daycare schemes and homeschoolers create these digital policies, because they're going to be really important in the future as we move forward, so we're all on the same page and we know what the expectations are. What can we do? How can we use them? What's acceptable? What's not, etc. So AI is not going anywhere, so we need to start thinking about how we can use it responsibly and ethically, and that is where we start. If you need a little inspiration to begin incorporating some of these strategies into your planning and programs to support the intentional teaching approach, try some of the following prompts when chatting with either the Academy Assistants or ChatGPT or Claude even. So some broader mentoring type concepts that you might want to try. What are some strategies for intentional teaching in early childhood education? So that's quite broad, and it might be something that you'd think of asking like a Google search or something like that, a web search. But this is going to give you a lot more detailed information if you can add in some of your goals and personal information as well. Can you provide examples of open-ended questions that I can use to extend children's thinking? And there I would also add on such and such. So something that you're discussing this week, so like our leaves example, used to extend children's thinking on leaves in nature or something like that. How can I incorporate the early years learning framework outcomes into my weekly program? What are some signs of a teachable moment in a preschool setting? Now, this one's quite broad. I would put a lot more information in there because you want to really personalize that to your preschool settings, and you could be using this as a reflection exercise afterward, if you're practicing recognizing those teachable moments in action. You might use this to come back and ask it to reflect and brainstorm with you, your assistant, on if you got that right and what are some other things you might have been able to do to even extend further, and you can then add them to your plan for next week. So that comes into things like, how can I extend a spontaneous learning experience? Here are my notes on that experience. So you always want to be giving some extra information. These tools, AI assistants, aren't mind readers. They do know a lot about a lot of things, but when we want to get specific, that's when we need to add in and be really aware of what we need help with our intentional teaching. How can I incorporate children's interests into my teaching plan? So again, there you would discuss give some context. You always want to give context around what are those children's interests that you want to incorporate into your teaching plan. How can I adapt my planning to cater to the individual needs and interests of the children in my group? So there you're going to get some higher level coaching consultancy type tips. These sort of things can be really great for educational leaders, directors, coordinators to start the process of some reflective practice and helping to guide and mentor other more inexperienced educators. You can also use, I always give you some fill in the blank, personalized style prompts, because I want you to really practice adding in your own information. So those ones that I just gave you didn't have that fill in the blank, but I was still sharing some ways that you could make them more personalized. And I've got some here for infants 0 to 18 months. Something like, I've noticed that insert child's name, likes reaching for and grasping objects. What 5 motor activities could I provide to encourage this emerging skill? So you can see I've provided more context there. It's got more to work with. I'd probably put in even more than that, but that's something that you could certainly start your conversation with and then go back and forth a little bit, offering more information as you go. Some examples for toddlers. So child's name, loves imitating my animal sounds but isn't using many words yet. How could I model more language during play to support their speech development? This child has started getting upset when I leave the room. What separation anxiety strategies could help them feel more secure? So what you want to do here is be bringing in your observations or asking your AI assistant to first help you analyze those observations so that you get to this point, and then you can keep expanding on it and say, so this is what we've discovered. What can we do now? So it's really helping you extend and really provide that personalized support for each individual child without it taking you as long as it used to trying to fit all of this in. Another example. Say Tommy grabs toys from others constantly today. What social emotional skills should I focus on, and how can I approach turn taking? Some preschool examples. This child tends to observe rather than join group play. Here are some of my observations over the past week. What strategies could encourage more social interaction? So there you would add in, obviously, your observation notes about that you've taken for this child, or jottings. Doesn't have to be a great big formal observation. Just pop in some of your notes and your thoughts as well, and ask ChatGPT or your Academy AI assistant for some help, for their feedback on this and where to go to next. So you're simply filling in the child's name and your specific observations, and then you're asking the AI assistant for guidance that's really tailored to your children's needs and the observations and assessment, etc., that you have already done. And you can use prompt templates like this as idea starters too, for seeking that intentional teaching support across different developmental stages and learning outcomes, no matter the framework or standards that you're aligned with at the moment in your part of the world. But considering, I know I'm telling you to give information to your AI assistant so you're getting those responses, better responses, not just a generic, boring response that everyone would get. But I still want to caution you to be mindful of ethics and confidentiality here. Artificial intelligence, or AI, definitely presents us with new opportunities for early education and learning and teaching, but with these come ethical considerations as well. So you'll want to keep the following information in mind that will help you navigate the ethical use of AI in early learning settings, especially when we're adding in information. AI generated content must always be carefully monitored for accuracy and bias. As I've mentioned in other episodes, they do often what we call hallucinate, and they can give you incorrect information. And if you don't know your stuff, then you're not going to know that. If you just boldly just copy whatever the AI gives you and put that into your, say, learning story or your next week's plan or your observation, that's not best practice. And you'll want to, because there might be something in there that is not correct. And you know that because you've used your judgment, your real life experience, and of course your knowledge of early childhood development and theory. So you still need all of those things. And it's really important that you always review what you're getting back from your AI assistant, and then also add in your own perspectives to it. Children's privacy is, of course, paramount. Doesn't matter whether it's offline or online. Whenever we are collecting this type of documentation or assessment data, an AI should enhance, not replace, your human judgment. So always keep that in mind. The AI chatbot is only as effective as the training it's been provided with. As I mentioned before, this can make a really big difference. Although challenging with many new tools now appearing online that say AI for teachers, etc., educators still have a responsibility to evaluate and only use AI tools and chatbots that they know have been trained by an experienced professional they trust. And you can also see those transparent digital privacy policies, which you can also see on Anthropic's Claude and OpenAI's ChatGPT, but then definitely not as comprehensive or as fail-safe as using the smaller AI chatbots, something that's been created specifically for education. And you want to know that they have those transparent policies. You should be able to find them easily. And you want to know that you're getting continuous updates about chatbot training with new information, the new regulations, any changes that are specific to the early education sector. Because what happens with large language models like ChatGPT is that they're a little bit behind. They've been trained on a lot of stuff over the whole internet, but they're not always up to date with the latest changes because their training only goes to certain time frames, certain time periods. And so it might not know, for example, I've had trouble getting it to explain correctly the early years learning framework version 2.0 because I've been doing a bit of testing around that. It's not continuously updating in that way until they do those big updates. So just be aware of that. And manage expectations that chatbots can fully personalize learning or replace human educators, because this is just unrealistic. The technology definitely has limitations, but we also need to know how to work around those challenges and how to inject our own common sense thinking and experience. So AI chatbots certainly do show promise as educational teaching assistants. I believe if they're used responsibly and confidently, I believe that human AI collaboration is really key, especially with how stressed and time poor our educators and teachers are at the moment, and the difficulty that we have retaining experienced, qualified educators and teachers that our children need. So why wouldn't we try using something like this that can help not only improve outcomes for children, but also to improve well-being and overwhelm levels for our experienced educators? If you've been thinking that you can't take much more in education, please do try starting to incorporate AI tools into your work and as an educator, because I think you'll be surprised at just how much it can lift off your shoulders. And it's also fun. It's fun having an assistant that you can pass on some of those things that you don't want to do, and you can get back to being in the moment with the children. So the possibilities of using AI to support our intentional teaching approach, I think, are exciting. And I really do hope that now you're feeling empowered and ready to experiment with some of the strategies I've shared throughout this episode. Make sure you check the show notes for links to some educator resources and blog posts I've left for you that I think you'll also find helpful. And if we think about just focusing on a gradual integration and an openness to learn together, I think we really will be amazed at how AI can save us time, provide helpful suggestions, and also to boost your intentional teaching practice, especially if this is an area that you struggle to do confidently. But just remember, you are the AI assistant's mentor in a way, or tutor. Approach your chatbot as an eager student and collaborator that you're consistently training based on your early childhood knowledge, expertise, experience over the years, and knowledge of the children, because it's not a magic solution that does it all for you, because simply it doesn't know everything that you do. And that's that personal approach. So that's why we can't be replaced, but we can certainly use it to make our life a lot easier. Those human connections that we make with children is irreplaceable in quality early childhood education. So keep that in mind if you're feeling apprehensive about using these AI tools. We really are just at the start of discovering how AI can provide more time for what matters most to us in early education. And we all know that's not endless writing and documentation. So why wouldn't we want to change that if we could, through learning how to take advantage of the support of an AI assistant? Please join me next week as we dive into another way you can use AI in early education to make your life easier. If you're enjoying this podcast, please follow along, share it with your teacher friends. I'd like to get the message out there that we can really support educators through just simple prompts and using AI tools. And until then, happy AI experimenting. Thanks for joining me. Bye.